friends, welcome to Dads and Daddies, a podcast about the lives and times of adult gay men in the here and now. I'm Brian Ruben Sowers, the dad.
And I am Judson Morrow, the daddy.
Judson.
Brian, what's going on?
This is our 50th episode.
Wow. That's so exciting.
Kind of crazy. So I'm so excited to see you and to chat today.
It's a double dip Friday because I get to see you now while we record, and you're coming over for dinner tonight because we're friends now.
For Shabbat dinner.
Oh, yes, for sure. I forget. I'm like, it's just Friday.
A special Shabbat dinner.
Yes, my husband and I, when we were traveling in Sri Lanka, picked up a bunch of spices. So he's making a Sri Lankan themed meal.
I'm very excited.
I am too. He was cooking away when I left the house to come over here.
And our friends are joining us, and our daughters are joining. It's going to be a lovely Shabbat dinner. I'm very excited to find out how the Sri Lankans do Shabbat.
It's actually funny that you mentioned that because while we were there, I go, "Are there any Jewish people in Sri Lanka?" And Bruce looks at me like, "No, dude." I don't know. Like, I feel like the diaspora is pretty extensive. There are Jewish people everywhere.
Jewish people in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, it's just a minority.
Yes.
Well, it's a minority most places.
Correct. So we should look up in advance if there are any Sri Lankan Jewish traditions specific to Shabbat that we can observe tonight.
There was a synagogue that
Well, then there you go. There are Jews in Sri Lanka. If you saw a synagogue.
We didn't see it, but our driver, our companion, our guide, offered to take us to the synagogue, and Bruce was like, "We're good."
Really? I would have wanted to see the synagogue.
He was not interested. He was much more interested in seeing like the temples. But you're right. In retrospect, it would have been interesting to maybe it was like a sort of hybrid architecturally. I don't know. We didn't go.
Next time.
Next trip to Sri Lanka.
Yes, very excited that I get to see you twice today. How was your week? I haven't seen you since we sat down here last week.
I had something very exciting happen this week.
Yes.
I was invited to be the guest on Sniffies Cruising Confessions podcast.
Oh, yes, you were.
Cruising for Daddies.
How was that?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, let me tell you this. It was like looking into a crystal ball because their production is crazy legit. Not that a basement pod studio.
What are you saying right now? As we sit in this studio that I have poured my heart and soul into creating.
From humble beginnings in Brian's basement.
Yeah.
So they have a studio in Brooklyn. They have this like entire production team, producers, teleprompter people, sound people, hair and makeup. It was very, very cool and very fun to do. It was also nice to be in a neighborhood that I don't normally go to in Brooklyn because it was fun to see who was on the Sniffies map.
Of course.
I mean, I'll be honest, nothing worked out. Honestly, the closest I got was someone who was like very hot and heavy in the conversation. And then when I asked for an address, he blocked me.
Yeah.
Classic. Happens everywhere. But to be a guest on this particular podcast was such a happy little reunion because Adam Brand, who is the impresario behind the very inclusive and very fun Inferno Party here in Brooklyn, and also the Narrow Rooms film series, is one of the producers.
Okay.
One of the hosts, Chris Patterson, is someone I have known from Gay for a decade.
From Gay?
I've known him from Gay for about a decade. He also lives in this neighborhood, FYI. I'll introduce you when we run into each other. And then Gabe Gonzalez, the other host of Sniffies Cruising Confessions, is one of my husband's party boyfriends.
Oh. Wow, that was quite the reunion.
Yeah, it was really sweet. It was really fun.
Did you make that connection there, or you knew that going in?
I knew all of these things going in. Yeah. So it felt like a very comfortable space. Their entire crew was like very, very kind. I really had a lovely time, and we will definitely make sure our listeners know when that episode comes out. It's coming out this summer.
Amazing.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
A lot. So
That face. Incredible.
This time last week,
Mhm.
I expressed that it had at that point been 4 weeks since I had had sex with anybody who wasn't my husband.
Correct. I recall.
And I also expressed that typically for me, the time between hookups is about 3.5 weeks, or I go through phases where there's like multiple in a week, but I've never hit the Judson Morrow fuckbatical record of 19. But having been speaking so much about that week of yours, and for other reasons, I needed to make something happen. So I've spent some considerable time on the apps this week for the first time in a while.
And
I have many adventures
yes.
to speak of. Not necessarily, I mean, there were 2 hookups.
Okay. We did it.
But many adventures.
Maybe misadventures?
Well, so Tuesday my work schedule was flexible. And I was working from a room in our home where I'm aware of everyone's comings and goings. Typically, I'm locked away in my office, and even though Toby and I are in the same home, we each have like complete privacy, and nobody knows if the other person is in the house. But on Tuesday, there was somebody working upstairs where my office is, and so I was in a room downstairs where I had full view of all the doors to the outside. So at one point, Toby leaves, and it's pretty clear to me what he is off to go do. And because he has a fanny pack around his chest, which I assume, I don't know, but I assume is there to hold poppers. I also believe that I have an understanding of what he is going to do.
That's a large bottle of poppers.
Well,
if it's a whole fanny. I get it. I have a little kit too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We have a kit, right? So, yes, maybe there was more in the kit to help him prepare for what he was about to do. But so not only did I then need to hook up because again, coming off of talking at length about your 19 in 1 week, and then having been at that point 4.5 weeks since our pod and party, which was the last time I had hooked up with anybody outside of my husband, and now seeing Toby on his way out with a fanny pack around his chest, I was like, I need to bottom for somebody I've never met before today.
Critical question.
Yes.
Were you actually horny?
Yes.
Okay, great.
No.
Great.
That, and I think I said this last week too, that like ever since I hit that like 3-week mark,
you're feeling it.
I was feeling it. I wanted to make something happen. But it was compounded by the fact that like I was hearing from you about a significant amount of conquests, and so many of them, if not all of them, sounded great. So I was horny for sure. And so, and again, my Tuesday work schedule was very flexible. There was a lot to get done, but I could control when it was getting done, and could hook up around that. And so I went into the day even before I saw Toby. My plan was at some point today I'm going to hook up. It was once I saw Toby with the fanny pack that I thought I need to bottom today. Like that was my
impetus.
That was my goal. So, yes, get onto the apps, and there's the first one that comes through. I think it was on Sniffies, that like felt like gift from above. Like, oh, this is gonna happen for me. It's gonna happen quickly. He was hot. He was responsive. He seemed super into me. He liked everything I was saying. He was sending me all kinds of pictures. And then, of course, I probably can't meet until later this afternoon. I would love to meet up, though, he said. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm free until about 4:30. He says, okay, sweet, I'll keep you posted. And then, of course, I've never heard from this person again.
But not blocked, just not heard from.
Not blocked, but just never heard from that person again.
I treat all of this as like a sales pipeline.
Right. Right.
Everyone I'm talking to is on an email cadence.
Right. So then there was the usual, like, going back and forth with someone, trading pictures, chatting about what we're into. I ask if he can host. He says, yes, I host. And then follows up with, Not at the moment, though.
Right, of course.
There's someone on Grindr who starts the conversation because on Grindr and Scruff, my profile is named Invite Me Over.
Right.
Because it's just, I want people to know from the get, because people do not read profiles, that I do not host. So right away, it says Invite Me Over. So one person just started the conversation with his address.
Okay.
But somehow that's also not appealing.
I agree.
And I mean, this is somebody who has sent me pictures before, and it's just not somebody I'm going to meet up with. So I finally am in correspondence with a couple folks actually on Blowers. But Blowers is oral forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really what I want, but
I'll take it.
But I'll take it. And also I went into the day, by the way, telling myself I'm not going to settle. Like, we've talked about this before. I'm not going to go for somebody who there are red flags or who I'm not attracted to. Like, I'm just not going to do that.
That should be every time.
It should be every time, but your dick gets in the way.
I don't always follow that.
Yeah,
either.
I mean, it's impossible,
I get it.
but we try. So anyway, I'm in conversation with two different people on Blowers, both of whom seem promising. I'm more attracted to one than the other, but the one I'm somewhat less attracted to is still attractive and is on our same subway stop. So like that just felt like convenient, but our timing wasn't working out. So I commit to this, the one who I actually am more into. He's farther away. But anyway, I go over to his place. He's very cute, very sexy. He is a kisser, but not a fantastic kisser, but he is a kisser. But here's my issue as a blowy. Okay. On the Blowers, you are labeled a blower or a blowy or both. And this person was labeled themselves a blower exclusively. They were not looking for reciprocation. And I clarified that in our chat because so here's the thing, as a blowy, like I have a tough time understanding the expectations, because if I'm bottoming for somebody, I know what is expected, and
sure.
I know that I can last as long as I need to for them to finish, and then I can finish very shortly thereafter, and we both leave satisfied. And part of my satisfaction in leaving is knowing that I have satisfied the other person.
Of course. That's daddy.
Right.
That's daddy.
Thank you. But being a blowy and only a blowy, when there's no reciprocation.
Blowy, to be clear, you are getting a blowjob.
I am on the receiving end.
You're receiving hand.
I am the top, I guess, in this situation. The expectations are tough for me to understand. Maybe I'm too new to this, but like in terms of like how long I am meant to last and what else is meant to happen, like is this are they okay with it being quick? Do they want it to last longer? I don't know, and I don't know how to ask that.
Yeah.
I mean, open, honest, direct, sure, but like I don't know how to ask that. So and I had asked him in the conversation leading up, I was like, hey, you don't want to receive at all? And he was like, well, maybe. And turned out he had a beautiful dick, and I was really into him. And so at some point I asked, like, can I suck you too? And, so I did for a little bit, but he had made it clear that it wasn't what he wanted in the chat beforehand. So anyway, so we're making out. He's very sexy. We moved to him giving me head. And in the chat, he had said to me, do you like poppers? And I said, yeah. And he seemed like excited about that, which again, that's something I don't necessarily understand in a oral only situation. I get where poppers fit into, anal sex, but like when it comes to blowjobs, I'm not as familiar with where they fit into the equation. So anyway, I go over there. We're making out. We're having a good time. He's giving me head, and the poppers are there, but nothing has happened. And so I said, this is so ridiculous, but in my people pleasing, like, oh, he brought up poppers in the chat. Like, he's clearly excited about poppers. Like, maybe I should like suggest the poppers now. So I was like, oh, should we do poppers? And so I do poppers, but he doesn't want any, which also confuses me. But then that gets me to a point where I'm a little bit closer,
of course,
than I want to be.
Yeah.
And so I pull out, and because I don't want to come yet. But then there's some significant leakage. I leak onto his bedspread, and he stops as if he was topping me and found out that I wasn't clean. It was the same kind of yes.
Yeah.
Which was awkward, obviously, but he went to go get a towel and clean it up, but then we started back up again, and but at that point I was already close, and there was only so much I could do. But we had been hanging out for a little while, but again, I just don't know what's long enough. And so finally I announced that I'm about to finish. He's happy to take that, and then but he also seems oh, he doesn't say this, but the what I get from his body language and facial expression is oh, already? And we finish, and he's perfectly nice, but I don't know. I mean, I think he's just a shy person, but it was an awkward goodbye. It was the most silent goodbye from a hookup I've maybe ever experienced. And so then, because it's Blowers, and Blowers has reviews, I leave him a review.
That was nice of you.
Which he then proceeds to delete, and he doesn't leave me a review.
Wait, you can delete a review of you?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And he did reach out after the fact and said, thank you for the review. I just don't want the publicity. But he didn't leave me a review. What am I going on Blowers hookups for if it's not going to add to my review count?
If I'm not getting stars. I hear you when you say I'm not sure about how long or short it's supposed to take. Again, the communication, I ask. I'm are you more into sucking the dick or am I coming down your throat?
Right.
I think that's a good way to frame that question.
Yeah. Okay.
Or, I mean, sometimes I can drive the car and say, hey, I'm happy to be here, but I have 15 minutes.
Right.
So that is something I'll probably let them know ahead of time.
Anytime I preemptively tell somebody that I only have a certain amount of time, but the certain amount of time I have is long enough in my mind for a full, because as you know, as we've talked about before, in my mind, a full hookup is 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. From arrival to departure is 20 minutes. But I think people get into their head that that's just not true, because anytime I say oh, I can get there at this time and then I have to leave by this time, the amount of time people say oh, well, I don't want to be rushed. I'm we're not going to be rushed. There's plenty of time in there for this. But anyway,
I'm with you. We have discussed. I have had hookups that go beyond that mark, but
yes,
for the most part,
yes.
I think hookups are pretty quick.
Yes, they are. But I just don't have the success rate that you have. I feel like every time I talk to you and you've left a hookup, it was hot and amazing.
Why is that? I mean, you still got it.
I did. I had 2 hookups this week, and I bottomed one. I had the blowy experience on the other.
I don't know. I think the reason my hookups are consistently good is number one, I do have a pipeline because I have a bunch of guys who are pinned where the timing isn't necessarily working out at that moment.
Yeah.
And then the timing works out.
Yeah.
So it's someone I was looking forward to over a period of time, and we finally were able to connect. I also I just, not to say that the bar is low, but my expectations are low.
Yeah.
For a Sniffies hookup. If the pictures are hot and the conversation is good, we click, I'm just oh, this will be cool. And most of the times, it's cool.
Yeah.
Is it always terrific, knock your socks off? Not always, but I would say in general, it's pretty good.
So it's an attitude.
Yeah, it's absolutely an attitude. I mean, if what you don't see, and we've talked about this before, is how many messages I have sent out into the world that have not been responded to, or they get responded to and they die, or they get blocked. Again, it's that salesperson's mentality. It's you got to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince. I say hi to a lot of people I find myself attracted to, and eventually it kind of comes around. To be fair, during Fuckbatical, I had more flexibility than I've ever had in my life.
Right.
And I think that is what led to a high connection rate because I could travel, I could host, I could be here this time, I could be there that time. Like, I don't have that in my work week. Like, in my work week, I'll have like 1 to 1:45 on Wednesday afternoon. Like, that's going to limit you.
And even when I'm talking about these like flexible work days, they're still only flexible to a degree. I still have to be like ready by this call and like if I can never host, whether I'm here at the office, I can't host. So I do have a lot of restrictions, and I'm always thinking like, what am I really looking to get out of this? Like, what am I actually doing this for? So yeah, it erases all of that. I'm still, as of this morning, in conversation with this like almost seemingly too good to be true in terms of looks, but this person who is new to the apps and still won't answer the question, will he make out with me or fuck me? But outside of that, Block. He's so cute. He's really,
this is how they get you. If they won't answer your questions, it's a no.
No, you're right. Speaking of answering questions.
I laid that one right up.
Did you mean to?
No, not at all.
Speaking of answering questions, we thought for our 50th episode that we are going to try a Go Ask Your Dad extravaganza. So many of your questions get us into conversations that are completely new and unexpected. So when we come back, we will have our Go Ask Your Dad extravaganza.
See you in a moment. Welcome back, listeners, to the Go Ask Your Dad extravaganza. Before we answer many of your questions to celebrate our 50th episode, we do want to remind you that neither Brian nor I are mental health professionals or financial planners. We are just two gay dudes with a lot of out and proud experience, and we address our questions with data from our lived lives. That is all.
Yes.
Data. It's science.
If you would like to send us a Go Ask Your Dad question, please email us at dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. Voice memos turn us on the most, and we have a couple of voice memos we're going to hear today. If we use your question, we will send you a Go Ask Your Dad cap. All right, so we will start with our first Go Ask Your Dad question of our extravaganza celebrating our 50 episodes. And here is a voice memo.
Hi, longtime listener, first-time caller. Thank you so much for your podcast. I started sleeping with this guy right when I moved to this small town in the Midwest after leaving New York City for a job. Let's call this guy Joe. Joe and I started sleeping together. Sex was really great, really connected, really good. I am a service dom top, and so I love pleasuring him. We have a really great connection. Cut to sort of that evolved into a friendship, and then Joe and I would go out, hang out, sleep together, go out and do various things. At some point in time, Joe got a boyfriend, and Joe is probably toxic for me anyway, but when the sex was good, I couldn't help it. Plus, where I happen to live, there aren't many gays, and the ones who are on the apps end up being either in open relationships, or they are down low straight guys, or they are bi. So not a lot of single gays out here, especially in my age bracket. So Joe, myself, and the boyfriend happened to all be friends. And for a while, Joe and I were still sleeping together while the boyfriend was around. Cut to, at one point, about 8 or 9 months into the relationship, I had set it up so that Joe could come over to my apartment when I got home from work. He had several tasks that he had to complete, very much service role for him. And then I was going to come home, find him, ready to go. We had the whole thing set up. Got to, the boyfriend had a quote unquote bad day and wanted to come hang out with us that night. So I had to have Joe somehow get into my apartment before his boyfriend and get rid of all of the evidence that something was going on because we were sleeping behind the boyfriend's back. The problem is this. The problem is, I have absolutely caught feelings for Joe. I can't let it go. I know he's bad for me, but the sex we have is too damn good, and I don't know what else to do. It also doesn't help that Joe and the boyfriend don't have sex at all. So that is not the best for me knowing that. So I guess my advice is, how do I navigate this quote unquote friends with former benefits moving forward? And how do I do that knowing that there just aren't that many gays where I'm at, and it's really nice to have friends?
While this situation is complicated, I don't think it is dissimilar from situations that a lot of gay men experience. So there's a couple things that I want to clarify in this particular instance for this particular person. One of the pieces that jumped out at me was that Joe and the boyfriend do not have sex. That is asymmetrical information and should not be used to make any of your decisions. That is information that sounds like it is being shared with you from Joe as opposed to from Joe's boyfriend, unless, in fact, you are all friendly and you know from the boyfriend that Joe and the boyfriend do not actually have sex. The other thing is, Joe's priority is Joe. Like, let us not forget, Joe is having his cake and eating it too. And as difficult as it might be to call it quits in a small town with not a large number of available gays, it sounds like, and I know that you know this, you just need to hear this, Joe is not it. Like, Joe has a boyfriend, Joe is toxic for you, Joe is not going to be the one. Lastly, I think there needs to be a clarification for you specifically as I listen to this memo, what you're actually looking for. Because at the beginning of the situation, it is very sex focused. And then at the end of the conversation, you say, it's really nice to have friends. So as a former small town gay, I understand what it's like to sort of like run through the pool of hookups, but also be wanting friendships. I think as you move forward, be very clear about what you're actually looking for. Are you looking for sex? Are you looking for a boyfriend? Are you looking for friends? Because if you are looking for friends, those men online, DL excluded, because they're not going to be friends with gay guys, the men in open relationships are probably open to friendship. As it relates to relationships or sex, in the longer term, as a former New Yorker and as someone who loves New York, my recommendation is to move back to New York. I understand that there's difficulty involved there, like the job, you might have to be close to your family, all the other things, but like, think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I have to agree with everything Judson said, and I feel like, again, you know this. You've said it many times in the question that you know that Joe is toxic for you. You know, we've said this before, but you have to listen to your gut. And if your gut is telling you that this person is bad for you, then this person is very likely bad for you. And while it may seem tough to believe that there will be sex with others, you know, it's much easier to say that in New York City than it is, you know, it sounds like where you are. There will be sex again. And listen, I believe very firmly, and this is tough for some people to believe, but I do, and I feel like I have enough proof in my own life that everything does happen for a reason. And it really does sound like Justin said, that Joe is not it, that Joe is looking out for Joe. It certainly does not sound like this is somebody who has your best interests at heart. And so you need to have your own best interests at heart. And you know, if the friendship is important to you, then I would strongly suggest trying to evolve this into a purely platonic relationship. But that can be hard. If you've really caught feelings that you cannot let go of, you may need to take some real time away to let those resolve before you can be friends again. I have friends, very good friends in my life, who I stepped away from for a period because I needed whatever the feelings were, whether they were that I was into this person or whether our relationship was just too volatile, even as friends. I needed time to step away, and I did, and then we were able to come back and be better friends. And, we've said this too before in the podcast. Maybe there are other ways outside of the apps to meet gay people where you are that you're not even realizing, or to make friends. Maybe they're not gay. Maybe you're just making other friends where you are, who can then maybe introduce you to their gay friends that might be more like-minded and more healthier for you. I really do feel for you, especially knowing that you've left New York, and so you have this idea in your mind of what gay life can be. That must be really kind of frustrating and challenging. But you sound really lovely and really thoughtful about all of this. I've got to believe that the happiness that is meant for you is out there to be found, and it may take a while. Certainly for me, I thought I had, all but given up. I was 38 before I met the person who has now become the love of my life, husband, co-parent to our 2 daughters. The life that I have now, I just thought I'd given up on by the time that it happened. So, all that to say that, listen to your gut. It might hurt in the short term, but often taking care of yourself does hurt in the short term. When we go to the doctor and get a shot of antibiotics, it does not feel good, but you definitely feel good after the fact. And I feel like it's advice that you probably already know and didn't want to hear, but I think that's it.
Beautiful. The last thing I'll add is this. I recently read this article. How long does it take to get over a breakup?
Yeah.
There's no magic number, especially because every relationship is unique.
Yeah.
But the one thing that extends the length of time of getting over a breakup is continual intermittent contact.
Yeah.
So you may want to consider, especially if you have feelings for this person who is in a relationship with another, how much contact you're willing to have with them, especially if it's just going to prolong your attraction and your interest in them. Great question. Thank you so much.
Should we move on to our next Go Ask Your Dad?
Let's do it. Do you want to read it?
I'm going to read this one.
Please.
I'm a proud dad of 2 young children. Congratulations.
Yeah, awesome.
And have been in an exclusive relationship with my husband for 9 years. He's always taken the lead in our relationship, both emotionally and sexually, and that mentorship dynamic has been something I've loved. But recently, he's been signaling an interest in switching things up, and I've been doing my best to step into that role for him. Here's where I'd love your insight. One theme I think I'm picking up on in your discussions is that daddiness seems less about age or power and more about mindset and confidence. It feels like it's about service, showing up for someone, protecting them, supporting them, and guiding them toward becoming their best self. That trust is something you hold carefully. You don't take advantage of it, you nurture it. You serve them, and in doing so, you find fulfillment. Is that close to the mark, or am I completely off in left field? I'm very drawn to this headspace, but when it comes to verbal communication during intimacy, I've hit a stumbling block. Some of the language traditionally associated with these dynamics, dad, uncle, etc., could potentially be triggering or loaded for some people. I never want to inadvertently make anyone uncomfortable, especially the man I love. As I've been trying to step into more of a leading/directive role, we've relied a lot on nonverbal communication, but I'd really love to incorporate verbal language that reinforces a dynamic in a safe, affirming, sexy way, without any terms that could feel problematic or overlap with family terms we use with our children. For example, I often call our son buddy, so using anything close to that is obviously off the table. I've asked my husband what feels right for him, but his preferences seem to shift depending on mood and context, which I totally get. So I'm wondering if you have suggestions for verbal cues or names that fit that confident, guiding, protective energy without veering into language that might be loaded or degrading. We've tried things like slut or pig, but those don't seem to resonate for him when the roles are reversed, but they definitely work for me. Alternatively, would you recommend leaning into nonverbal direction? And if so, how do you do that effectively without losing intensity or clarity? Judson mentioned being more quiet in directing. I'd love to hear more about how that works in practice. Ultimately, I just want to show up for him and give him what he wants and deserves, especially after all these amazing years he spent holding that space for me.
I am grinning ear to ear because embedded into this question is this listener's takeaway / reinterpretation of daddiness as we speak about it all of the time. And I have to say, it was so beautifully put. It was so eloquent. It is absolutely on the mark for how we try to discuss it, that it is age agnostic, that it is position agnostic, that it is power agnostic, that it is absolutely being of service, being a guide, being protecting, and being nurturing. That said, I have some pretty sexy recommendations that you might want to try. Using names may just not work, right? We have discovered, obviously, you don't want to use anything that's close to how you make reference to your offspring. You don't want to make reference to anything that's sort of like familial or even biological in nature. That's absolutely fine. There's certain terminology that will pop up in other people's relationships or pornography, like pig or slut, that hasn't worked for you. Let me offer you this. One of the sexiest things in the world that will put you in the driver's seat while also tending to the fact that your husband's needs can change on a mood or situation dependent basis is a little something that I like to call the call and repeat. And that is simply, I, as the daddy, say the thing, and then the son repeats it back to me. It's as simple as, I'm sexy, I'm hot, I'm beautiful, or alternatively, a command for what they want done to them. Like I will say something like, suck my dick. The son says, suck my dick. And therefore, I suck the son's dick. So you can take exactly what your husband wants to do or have happen to him, create it as a command to him, and then when you hear it back, do that exact thing. And in this way, you can avoid any of the terminology that is problematic for you or has created discomfort for you. I absolutely love call and repeat. It will put you in charge. It will give your husband some direction and where to go. And also, it feels really cool to be the repeater and say, I'm hot, I'm sexy.
Now, do you say, repeat after me, or do you say,
this requires verbal direction. I simply say to my sons, repeat after me. And then I say the thing. So even saying to your partner, repeat after me, puts you in the daddy position of driving, of taking control. And it's not dominating, it's not domineering, it's just a request that they repeat back to you. Yeah, it has to be said for this to sort of like initiate the back and forth.
He also asked, you have mentioned being more quiet in directing. He would love to hear more about how that works in practice. Do you remember what that's?
Yeah, I think you're actually really set up for success here in that you've identified that your husband's moods and desires can change. The only way for you to understand what those moods and desires are is to clarify them kind of at the beginning of the act. And then once you know, you have full confidence and full control in addressing those desires, especially because it's your husband. Like consent is sort of built into the act when you have been together for that long and you are having a discussion beforehand. I think by speaking to them about what the desires actually are allows you to address them non-verbally in sequence once you get things rolling. You can obviously always check in. It doesn't have to lose momentum with things like, do you like that? Is that good for you? Those are great. But it sounds like just by clarifying what he wants at the beginning of the instance is going to give you the confidence and the direction to move it around for yourself without a ton of talking.
I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am lucky to have had a lot of really open and vulnerable sons to practice with.
Again, thank you for the question.
Our next listener submitted question. My partner and I have been dating for some time. Our relationship only continues to grow, and so does our sex life. It's feeling soon like my other half may take the leap and try to have a hookup with someone outside of the relationship. My only concern is safety. I've offered to be a second pair of eyes when it comes to conversations/negotiations he has online. I've offered to drive them to their hookup and even stay close by for both safety and first-time jitters. I'm not scared. I guess I'm just so protective about him having a good time and leaving feeling respected. Can you tell I'm the top in the relationship? Ha ha ha. All of these things that I've mentioned, he's appreciated. It would just upset me if someone else ruined the experience for my partner, who I know has put so much personal work to get to this point, and I love him so much. I just want him to have a really good first experience. Is this something you've ever considered about your partners? And if so, do you have any advice for how I can continue to keep my partner safe in a way that is supportive and encouraging?
Wow. It's tough because there is so much about hookup culture that is out of our control. And part of, to my mind, what is almost the most fun about the entire process of hooking up is the planning, the meeting somebody online, the developing the attraction, the negotiation, however long or short that might be, the anticipation. And what makes it fun is how kind of spontaneous and unexpected so much of it is. I guess my thought about the question is that I worry that the more you try to control this and the more expectation you set around it, the higher the degree of potential disappointment, if that makes sense. And so I kind of want to advise you to let go a little bit and let it be casual, and also be ready for it not to be great. I think that this is the kind of stuff that, believe it or not, gets like practice makes perfect. I think that the likelihood that the first hookup is going to be like incredible is like that's a tough bar to set. And I think by setting that bar, might not be setting anybody here up for success. So I think if you're truly concerned about like actual physical safety, yes, absolutely, give a look over the conversation, make sure there's no red flags that you're seeing. I mean, it sounds from the way I'm reading this that you have, or you feel that you have much more experience in the realm of hooking up than your partner does. So sure, read over the conversation, see if you feel there are any red flags. I think the idea of being, fairly close by after the fact so that your partner can, run into your safe arms afterwards and be able to tell you how it went could be nice. But at the same time, your partner also might want a little bit of like decompression time on their own to go through their thoughts of the experience before, reporting them back. I think my general reaction is to try to like take a deep breath, let nature happen, and that by putting too much expectation around it, it might create a little bit too much pressure that might make it hard to actually have the incredible experience that you're hoping he has.
I love your answer, Brian, because it was actually the one that I had formulated as well.
Yeah.
I was surprised not to hear something in your response, and that is you, more than me, always return to this idea of autonomy and freedom.
Yes.
And I think in this particular situation, by ceding control and managing expectations, by giving this person the freedom to fuck up, is the best way to show that you love them, to show that you care and ensure their good time. So I completely agree with Brian and everything he said about the control. I just want to add the freedom piece. Like, let him own this.
Yes. I also think that, to your point, that let's not put this, let's give him the freedom, like Justin said, to fuck up, so that there's not this feeling, if this first hookup or first several hookups aren't great, that he's failing in any kind of way. I think, we talk on this podcast a lot about hookups, and it may sound like success rates are high, but as I hope you heard from the first portion of today's podcast, like, I feel like I was thinking about this, Judson. I feel like of the two of us, like, you're the aspirational, like everybody wants to be like hooking up on the apps like Judson, and I'm the everyman, like making sure everybody understands, like, nope, we're all still having the same experiences that you are.
I would love to show you my thread and how non-responsive it is. Please.
It's not just about lack of response, but I mean, I think what we talked about earlier about like attitude and really thinking about like going in with the right expectation level, but that goes right back here. I think like the expectations are being set so high for this to be so great that like, let's just like let go and give him the freedom just to like have whatever experience he has, and to kind of make it clear that like, okay, that's okay. Like that one sucked. Like many will, but many won't also. And then the reason, one of the reasons I keep doing it at least is because like every now and again I have that hookup that's like, oh wow, that was so hot. That made me feel so good about myself, about just where I am in the world. Like it just like, they can be really life affirming when they go great, and so we keep seeking that high, I guess.
The last thing I will add too is that one thing that we didn't touch on, but I do want to acknowledge and compliment you for, listener. Everything that you're doing, and even the reason that you asked this question, is clearly because you're proud of your partner and you love them very, very, very much. So I just want to say congratulations on meeting a person that you feel this kind of love for and just looking out for their good time. Like that is a huge part of partnership. But what my husband tells me all the time is like, my good time is not your responsibility. Like, thank you for making the reservation. Thank you for buying the tickets. Thank you for planning this, but you've done your part. So congrats and thank you for the question.
All of these questions have come from people with like real love in their hearts.
Oh yeah. Deeply, deeply, deeply.
And I just love all of you, listening to us every week. It really just, I can't think how much it means to us. Here is our next question. I'm 41, been with my husband for 13 years, married for 6. And we've just recently dipped our toes into non-monogamy with a couple of threesomes. Both were super fun and hot, and any fears of jealousy I was worried about completely went away once we actually went through with it. Like you, Brian, I love sharing everything with my partner, and he does too. So solo hookups don't really appeal to us right now. That said, we haven't ventured into anything like a sex party, a naked night at a bar, or a more public experience. I'm curious, but he's not quite comfortable with it. Hearing stories from friends and even you two makes me a little envious. I don't want to sound ungrateful. We've grown a lot as a couple lately, but now that we've opened this door, it feels like the floodgates are starting to open for me. Any thoughts on how to navigate that feeling of envy, wanting to explore more adventurous sexual experiences like other couples seem to be having, while also recognizing and appreciating how much of our relationship has grown and evolved recently?
Like other couples seem to be having, right? This is exactly what we've been talking about. You get the highlight reel, you don't get the no's, you don't get the mishaps, you don't get the misadventures, right? There's also something about the fact that you have recently opened your relationship. You are probably more plugged into, probably in social media or even within your friend group, who is having these types of sexual adventures, quote unquote, because they are new and interesting to you. I think that plays a large part in it. That does make it seem like it is happening for everybody else. Envy is the thief of joy, and to compare is to despair. And let me set up your own situation for you. You, again, congratulations, have opened your relationship. That is awesome. And admittedly, you have had some really hot threesomes. Do you know how many men are in closed relationships who would love to be able to say, yeah, I just had a hot threesome with my husband, right? So remember that. Your sex life, while it is not the goal, may be creating jealousy or envy in other people who haven't done the things that you've gotten to do. And as a reminder, like Brian and I do not share our sexcapades as a means of bragging or prompting jealousy or envy. We do this because it is so, so important to us to de-shame this type of activity for people who are either engaged in it or want to be engaged in it. That is it. So again, you do get the highlight reel. And what I also hear in the question is like, no naked bar party, no sex party, ... yet. Like, he only may be uncomfortable because the entire situation is brand new to him. So this is awfully geographically dependent, but depending on where you are, you may be able to find sort of like a lower stakes, intimate or naked event, such as a naked yoga class or a cuddle party instead of a sex party. And there's always, and again, it could be a space and logistical nightmare. I'm making no assumptions about how you care for your home or who you want in it. But you could also curate a small group for yourselves. Then you have a lot of control over the situation, and it might assuage some of your partner's fears or misgivings about group play.
So as somebody who has a husband who has never been as interested as I am in group activity, in parties, sex parties, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying. And, my husband and I have been together now also 13 years and married for almost 11. And I've always been excited by the idea of group activity that includes him, sex parties, and it took a considerable amount of time, like most of our time together, for us to finally start having some group play together. And every time we have, okay, maybe not every, a majority of the time we have, we've all enjoyed it. We've walked away, happy that we've done it. But he's still just moving at a slower pace than I am in terms of comfort with these things. And I have just come to accept that, like, some of these things he may never come to. But he's perfectly happy with me attending a sex party or going to a naked night at a bar. He's just not going to do that with me. And I know many couples like that. I know another couple who I've had a threesome with, and who I know they love, again, like group activity that includes themselves, but only one of them will go to sex parties and, naked nights at bars and stuff like that. So maybe there's a way where you can come to an understanding where it's okay for you to explore these things without him. It's a little bit different than you just going off and having your own hookups or even having, other threesomes. Maybe you can keep it to, hookups are exclusively threesomes that include each other, but that you can categorize parties and bar nights as a separate thing that you're allowed to explore because the connection is very different at those than they are in a hookup. And that's kind of where we've come to, and other couples I know have come to, where I had patience for many years. We finally got to the place where we could have threesomes, and even now those threesomes don't happen frequently. And we only a week or so ago had a conversation where he said to me, because I tried to make something happen, he said, it's just not for me. Speaking of threesomes. And I think that we will continue to have them, I don't know, once a year, once every couple of years. I'm sure they will happen now and again. But, he has expressed to me that that's just not his comfort level. And I have to be okay with that. And hopefully, and I'm very appreciative that he is okay with me going off and exploring these other experiences. So maybe you guys can find that balance.
The thing that I will add here, is about your communication, which sounds incredible. You've been together for a long time. You're starting to do something new. It sounds like this is a really good opportunity for you to ask him, hey, babe, when these opportunities come up, such as a pool party, such as a sex party, such as an underwear night at a bar, do you want me to present them to you as options so you can even consider it? Or would you rather not hear about it yet, right? Because what might ultimately happen is if you present and present and present and present, hoping that eventually he will say yes, if he is like me or if he is like Toby, when we will interpret that as being told what to do and say, fuck you, and get pushed even further toward the answer that you absolutely do not want, which is no.
Yeah.
So take the time to just say, like, hey, we've discussed these particular type of events as they come up. Do you want me to ask? The other thing that I want to add to, Brian and Toby's dynamic that is a little different for me and my husband's, because we do go to these kind of parties together half the time. Be aware of your husband's social bandwidth. Some of the reason he may not want to go is he could just be spent socially. So it's like, wait, you want me to socialize and be naked and navigate sex right now? A lot of the reason I say no to sex parties is not because I'm not interested in sex or spending time with my husband. It's just that I've had a bruiser of a week at work and I don't want to fucking talk to anybody. So take that into consideration, and that obviously ebbs and flows, but it might be an important component as you move forward.
And you make a good point that a sex party is a particular kind of experience that draws on, yes, your social battery, but also, however you feel about being naked in public and having sex in public. It's there's a lot going on in your head to juggle, and so I think it, in my experience, that sounds a lot harder than it is. I think once one is there, that it's easier to ease into. But I think you've got to give everybody their own time. And I'm just hoping maybe your husband can give you the pass to at least explore those again, like if you see them as separate from hookups. The other one thing I will say, because you mentioned pool party and it brought up a thought, which is that there are some parties where you don't have to be naked and don't have to participate in the sex. And I have been at pool parties with my husband where he has remained either dressed or in his swimsuit, but I have been able to go off and take off my swimsuit and partake in some activity that he can either ignore or he can watch or whatever. And so maybe you can also find some activities, like some of these bar nights, maybe they don't require full nudity, and maybe you can go in a way that he's comfortable and you get to explore. So there might be some hybrid activities like that too.
You don't even have to have sex at a sex party.
Right.
Right? Like you can go just to experience watching other people.
Yeah.
And that might be a commitment you would like to make to each other.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I have no expectation to have sex tonight. Maybe you and me together in public. But let's just go to see what it's all about.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know couples who go to sex parties
to have sex with each other.
Publicly. But find it very sexy to be doing it in a room of people having sex. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely an option here.
Yeah. Thank you again for the question. These are all such great questions. And really, I love, again, that they all come from people with real love in their hearts for the people in their lives. All right, we're going to take a break. And we're going to come back with one last Go Ask Your Dad question for our extravaganza.
See you in a bit. Listeners, welcome back to Go Ask Your Dad Extravaganza in celebration of our 50th episode. We have got one more question for you before we wrap it up.
And it's a voice memo.
Dream.
I'm hard. Here we go.
Hey daddies, I'm a 24-year-old man who has been experimenting with non-monogamy for the past few years, and I wanted to ask you guys about the in-person art of cruising. Of my many encounters, not one has ever been sparked through like an upfront or in-person connection. I've found boyfriends this way, but never hookups. I dream of cultivating a moment in a locker room or a club, but I worry that I might be lacking the tactical skills. My question for you guys is, what did the art of hooking up look like before the apps, and what advice would you give younger guys about stepping out of a digital space and into the real world of cruising and like hooking up?
Oh my God, the way my daddy heart just swells at this question. Wow, what a hot question. I'm going to speak against the broad generalizations that we make about men who've identified as this age or younger. I do feel this person is squarely in Gen Z, and I feel like everything you read about Gen Z is like, they don't know how to communicate, digital natives, like lost art of conversation, blah, blah, blah. It actually doesn't have anything to do with this generation. It has to do with the advent of the apps, period.
Right.
There are people across all ages who have lost the ability to engage in the way that this listener describes, even if they had it pre-app. And I have some very easy advice for you that my introverts of the world are going to fucking hate.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it easy?
And listen, I have mentioned this before. I am a fairly outgoing person. I have many, many years with experience professionally in hospitality. I have many, many years of experience professionally in sales. So if at the very least, not actually extroverted, I can LARP extroversion, and have also had no said to me hundreds of thousands of times. Treat the approach as a zero-sum game. If you are in the gym or you are in the club and you see a target who you want to speak to, all you have to do is go up and say hi. It's going to go one of two ways. You're going to talk or you're not going to talk. Period. That is it. And if you're not going to talk because they decide they don't want to talk, you are exactly where you were before you even approached. Before you approached, you didn't know that person. After you approached, you didn't know that person. Something I will also say, the art of cruising has a lot to do with the cues from other people, right? Don't assume that they don't want to talk to you until you engage, because this is a lost art. The number of hot men I have seen faces light up because they are standing against the wall at a party looking like they don't want to be there, who get approached by my husband, who just says hello. It is incredible. He is so good at just like picking the wallflower, right? So don't assume that if they have stink face on, they wouldn't actually be delighted to engage with you. It is just a defense that they have learned along the way. I was speaking to a friend who is absolutely beautiful, tall, broad-shouldered, great hair, handsome in the face. And he just said to me, I have been closing myself off for so long from the opportunity to be with really sexy men because I have used I'm a professional and I'm picky as a defense, when in reality, I'm just scared of rejection. So now I smile at them and it has just changed everything. So very simply, hi.
Yeah, so you asked what it was like. In my 20s, I was out, in my late 20s and early 30s, I was out at the gay bars in the East Village of New York 5 out of 7 nights a week. And
tracks for me as well.
And I went home with somebody most of those nights.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that there was one night, maybe I've told this story before in the podcast, I can't remember, where I went up to somebody and he started the conversation by describing my bedroom back to me, and I had no recollection of having hooked up with this person. And so I actually took a 6-month break from hookups because I was like, that got into my head, like, oh, I'm clearly doing this too much. Anyway, my point being that I was very schooled in the in-person hookup. And Justin's correct. It is about approaching and saying hi. I would spend probably much more time than necessary watching the people that I thought I wanted to go home with, and building up my confidence, thinking in my head, like, okay, what am I going to say? What is this conversation going to be like? What would happen in many cases is I would wait too long and somebody else would approach that person and say hi, and that person's face would light up and they would start chatting. And by the end of the night, I would be watching them making out. So yeah, I mean, there is a level of confidence. Confidence is sexy. Confidence is super attractive and magnetic. So even if it is a fake it till you make it confidence, walking up to somebody and just saying hi, certainly in a bar. I have something else to say about, locker rooms and gyms, because that's a tad more sensitive, I think. But if you are in a social place where people are there to see other people and be seen by people and to be social, even if they are in a group of friends, I think Justin's right. I think just going up and saying hi goes a long way. Now, I will say that the fear of rejection is real.
So real.
And the smile and nod that is clear, like the person is just being polite and is giving you a return hello, but really doesn't want to continue the conversation beyond that, can hurt. And just before the podcast today, Judson and I were talking with my husband, and he says, 20 years later, he still carries the memory of approaching somebody and getting that rejection. In his case, it was somebody who I think was a friend, and he expressed feelings for this friend, and the friend said, "Oh, I really like you a lot, but not in that way." And he said he still carries that bruise 20 years later. So rejection is powerful. I get it. And I think that is what has made the apps so successful, is that it is so much easier to deal with rejection from somebody who is not in front of you, who is just a picture on your screen who you don't know, than having somebody right in front of you smile and nod and move on. But the reward, I think, is also so much better. Again, when Court Vox was here a couple weeks ago, he just talked again about the difference between meeting somebody completely visually online and how different it is to be in person with somebody, and everything from, the energy to their smell and all of these things. So when you say hi and it actually does turn into a conversation, I think the what are those chemicals in our body that
pheromones?
Yes, well, yeah, but also the anyway,
dopamine.
The dopamine hit that we get is like so much more powerful. It's that because that connection feels so much more just cool and affirming. And so I'm such an advocate for bringing back in-person cruising and putting down the phones. So I love this question, and I love your desire, and I love that you are 24 and wanting to figure this out. Please be the pioneer for your generation in bringing back in-person cruising. I wanted to go back to the gym and locker room idea, because I do think it's a little bit more sensitive, because it is not necessarily an environment where you can be as confident that the person is gay, and that we are in a place where it is all about physique. And then certainly in the locker room, when people are in various states of undress, the subtlety and getting it right can be really important. There are certainly signals that I became very accustomed to, in the steam rooms, in the saunas. And it was about, sitting in a way that, you were covered enough, but only enough.
Legs spread.
Making eye contact enough so that your intention was clear, but at the same time could be passed off as just normal humans looking at one another, in the case that this person is straight or not interested in you or not interested in risking the public sex. And then eventually moving to, touching yourself in the most polite way, or a way that, again, could be passed off as just natural. And then if
like a towel adjustment. I'm just adjusting my towel.
Sure. And then, if they mirror the movement, you start to get a sense of like, okay, they're also into this. Moving closer to them every time the door opens, like sitting back, stopping what you're doing, making sure that the person walking in is not going to take offense at anything that you're in the middle of. It's a much more delicate dance in my experience. Now, there are also times where just out on the floor, I just keep making eyes at a person to the degree that it was clear that we were cruising each other. And so when they would leave the floor to go shower, I would say, fuck it to the rest of my workout and also go and see if the eyes were continuing to be made, to see if we ended up in a steam room or sauna at the same time.
And then they're a porn star.
Well, yes, in one case, the porn star walked into my shower, but go back to our cruising episode. And then in some cases, I would just not even try to make something happen in the locker room. I would just try to time my exit from the locker room to theirs so we could leave the building at the same time together, and hopefully on the street finally say hi and see where it went from there. And I can think of at least 2 occasions where I then went on a date or 2 with somebody who I met by just making eyes on the floor of the locker room, or not the locker room, the gym, for long enough, timing my exit to theirs and saying hi on the street.
God, the New York Sports Club on 14th Street was my favorite gay bar for a decade. And listener, I also want to add, for anyone who is younger, whose target is an older man, do not assume these 2 things. Number 1, that they were even good at cruising when it was a thing, or that they still know how to do it because they have also adopted this app life. There is nothing sexier for me at the age of 42 than for a younger man to walk up and say, hey. So please don't assume, if in fact your target is an older man and you are younger, that they are better at it, more experienced, or more likely to say no. A young dude coming up and just introducing themselves is so, so hot. And that is how I picked up one of my sons at Brooklyn Pride, because he went out of his way just to say hi.
Again, thank you so much for the incredible question. Thank you for sending it as a voice memo. Please send us more voice memos, everyone. We love them. Again, send us your Go Ask Your Dad questions to dadsanddaddies@gmail.com. If we use it, we will send you a Go Ask Your Dad cap. Thank you for being with us for 50 episodes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have been growing exponentially. If you follow us on TikTok or Instagram, you've been seeing our numbers get higher and higher. We're just so excited to be doing this. We love doing it. It is a much cheaper form of therapy for me. So thank you all for listening and coming back week after week. Speaking of coming back week after week, next week we have Nathan Lentz, Professor Nathan Lentz, joining us, who is the author of The Sexual Evolution: How 500 Million Years of Sex, Gender, and Mating Shape Modern Relationships. If you are interested in animal behavior, pick up the book. You will be fascinated. It is so cool, and I'm so excited to talk to him about his book. The week after that, we have GayVN award-winning porn star Joel Someone.
Woof.
And and a lot of other exciting stuff coming to you soon after that. So thank you. Please, again, if you haven't already, do leave us a rating and a review wherever you are listening to us. Please visit our website, dadsanddaddies.com, where you can check out our store and buy some Dads and Daddies merchandise to help spread the love. And also you can sign up for our weekly newsletter. And we will see you in a week.
See you in a week.